If a long-lost relative popped up, would you be the jerk for denying them access to your family? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for ripping my daughter away from family? I, 25-year-old female, and my husband, 26-year-old male, recently had a baby. Context for the story, my husband and I grew up in different states on opposite sides of the country. When we both graduated college, he moved in with me in my home state. I had a very long, difficult labor. I almost passed on, and so did my child. She came out not breathing and was totally limp when she was placed on my chest. My parents are divorced. I'm an only child. We live about 15 minutes from my side of the family. So far, after my daughter's birth, my mother has visited maybe 4 times. She shows up, takes a couple of photos for Facebook to show the world how great of a grandma she is, then leaves. My dad is very involved, but I struggle with that since him and I did not have a great relationship as I was growing up. He's been narcissistic, manipulative, emotionally abusive my entire life. This becomes important later. My husband's family lives about 11 hours from us and has seen the baby more than my own mother has. When we visited his family during the holidays, we were able to do date nights, have babysitters, not have the baby tied to us the entire day. Our laundry was done. We got to take naps, showers, whatever we needed to do to rejuvenate when our daughter had a rough night. When we visit my side, it's, let me hold the baby as soon as we walk in the door, and we aren't even acknowledged. We've gotten no help from them whatsoever. The area we live in is very expensive, and we currently rent an apartment. It's extremely difficult for us to get ahead enough to put a down payment toward a house because of the cost of living in our area. Recently, my husband and I have discussed the idea of moving closer to his family. Him and I have both been applying to jobs pretty religiously. Somehow, my dad got a wind of this and threatened to not be involved in our lives anymore if we move and rip his granddaughter away from him. This personally was pretty hurtful because I'm his only child and he seems to be more concerned with losing our daughter than his own. These comments were very hurtful to my husband as well, who's seen my dad as a father figure since his dad isn't in the picture. My mother has made comments as well. My response has and remains that my husband's family made the effort to take flights to come see us, so why can't they? I don't want to punish my dad since he is a good grandfather by moving. But we have no support system here in my state and tons where my husband lives. I also want to eventually buy a home and settle down and put our daughter in a good school, which I know we can do where my husband's family lives. So am I the jerk for thinking about relocating our family? Edit, I see a few comments about this, so I want to clarify. If we do decide to move, we would never put the pressure of daily childcare or anything like that on his family. We are looking to move to have a healthier support system, more efficient income, help when it's offered or absolutely necessary. Of course, she's our child. We would never go in with the expectation of someone else to take care of her. It's just nice sometimes to know that we have the help if it's needed. This story makes me wonder if those traits that OP described their father having still have OP in a bit of a stranglehold. Because to me, it seems like kind of a no-brainer if everything would be so much better for OP's family to move, and yet they can't because Grandpa would be upset. If OP moving means that he's going to be upset and he's going to be done with ever visiting OP again, that's his prerogative, and that's just more indicative to OP of how little they should really take his opinion into account. OKLK left a comment saying, so your narcissist, manipulative, and emotionally abusive father is emotionally abusing you to manipulate you to get what he wants? That tracks. Is this the day-to-day influence you want your child to experience? Move as soon as you can. If your parents care, they will make the effort to visit. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, am I the jerk for buying my nephew piano lessons for his birthday? I recently decided that I wanted to shift in buying experience presents instead of material gifts as kids have so many toys it seems. Over the last couple of years, every time my nephew, 6 years old, is at my house, he always wants to play on my piano or requests that I play it for him. I thought it might be nice for his birthday to buy him piano lessons for the year at our local conservatory. I asked his parents if they were okay with this, and I offered to drive him to and from lessons as well as give my extra keyboard for him to practice on. I made it clear to his parents that I didn't care if he wasn't interested past the year, but if he wanted to continue, that I would continue to pay the tuition. It was more to provide that opportunity to him. He's the perfect age to start, and he genuinely seems to love music. Edit to say, they both said that they were okay with this gift prior to me gifting it. Of course, my nephew was thrilled when he got the gift. But after the party, I got a text from my sister-in-law basically saying that I need to back off and that I have no right to infringe on how they want to raise their child and dictate what programs they're involved in, and that if I want to put a child in music, I ought to have a child myself. She further went on to say that if I really cared about the rearing of their child and their wishes, that I would have purchased tuition to skating lessons as they want their boy to play hockey. I haven't yet responded because I don't know what to say. I'm afraid of making things worse. I suppose in some sense, yes, I picked piano lessons because I myself am a musician and that's the world I'm familiar with. But I also considered how much my nephew loves playing on the piano when he's over. And yes, I knew that his parents wanted him to play hockey because that's what they both played as kids. But I figured it wouldn't be a bad thing for him to have many opportunities to try different things. I mean, growing up, I did music, skating, swimming, ballet, field hockey, and all at fairly high levels. It was all part of being a well-rounded person. And further, I didn't want to take away the parents' special moment in signing him up for hockey or skating lessons themselves. I don't know. I'm just wondering from other parents here if I've done something wrong. I don't have kids myself, so perhaps I overstepped. I certainly wasn't trying to take something away from them or push their child into a path. I don't know where to go from here. Edit. Wow, there is a terrifying number of responses to this. Thank you all for taking the time to provide your thoughts. I wouldn't usually post, but I was so deeply hurt, I guess I was venting. For anyone curious, I'll update once I chat with my bro tonight. As promised, the update. I'm not going to impose judgment here, just relay a summary of the convo. Fellow Redditors can make of the conversation what they wish. I brought up the text my sister-in-law sent me to my bro and expressed my confusion, as they had both given me consent. My brother did appear shocked at the message and said that he didn't know it had been sent. That said, he did guiltily admit that there had been some conversations between his wife and her parents and sisters about my gift, and that it wasn't an entirely kind convo. The general tone was, "You're allowing his aunt to pick his programming? Why aren't you putting him in what you want?" Along with snarky comments asking if it was bad form to whistle and bring cowbells to a recital, and that they're gonna have to find pearls to wear. There were also some raised eyebrows about the cost of the gift when my sister-in-law told them, and comments that it was over the top. My brother apologized to me for not stepping in when that conversation was going on, and for allowing the family to talk that way about me. He's generally a pretty quiet guy, and non-confrontational. That's not an excuse, only to say that I can see him not saying anything. I told my brother that I don't want to cause problems for him and his family, and that if they want, we can reduce the number of lessons to just 6 or 8. It feels wrong to take the lessons away completely. My brother, who, while he was a high-level athlete through university, also played piano until he was 16. He refused the reduction and said that he had no problem with a full year. He said his son has been talking about the lessons and keeps asking when they're starting. He agreed with my philosophy, or I suppose our family philosophy, that if you're gonna try something, you should at least have the discipline to try it for an entire year. Anyway, I told him that I don't want this to be a thing and that I'm happy to move on as long as everyone else is still okay. Within a couple of hours of me getting home, my brother sent me the registration confirmation. For those who didn't see my other comments, I had e-transferred the parents the entire tuition amount, which had been accepted by them prior to the party, but they still had to fill out the registration form. He sent the confirmation in the group message between myself, his wife, and him. All he said after that was that his son will treasure this gift, which honestly makes up for the hurt and the stomach pain I've had over this. It's crickets from my sister-in-law, but I'm gonna let it go. We'll likely need to chat about it in person at some point, but maybe once things cool off a bit. I think the most important thing that OP in no way can back off of is the fact that they both greenlit it. They both put the rubber stamp on this in advance. They can't after the fact be like, why did you have such a stupid gift idea in the first place? Don't you know our boy was destined to be a hockey player? His middle name is Gretzky, for God's sakes. Sign left a comment saying, not the jerk. You asked, they agreed. Now what? They're changing their minds. Why? What's really going on? That would be my reply message. I asked you this, you agreed with it, now what's changed? Our next story is, am I the jerk for not making my daughter switch back a gifted Labubu with her younger cousin after her uncle found out the one my daughter gained in the swap is rare with a high resale value? Throwaway because family's on Reddit. This happened over Christmas and it's turning into a whole family drama. My daughter Sophia, 12, and her cousin Martina, 6, daughter of my sister Maria and her husband Jose, were gifted blind box Labubus as part of their Christmas gift from my other sister Sarah. They each opened their boxes. Martina got a brown one and Sophia got a pink one. Martina immediately wanted the pink one and Sophia immediately offered a trade because she already has the pink one and was hoping for the brown one. They traded, both girls were happy, and that was that. Or so I thought. Later, Martina's parents found out from talking to someone that the brown Labubu is apparently a rare secret version that can sell for $250+. Once they learned that, they called me, said the girls needed to switch back and that Sophia was to return the brown one immediately. They even wanted me to drive over with it then and there, despite the fact that they live an hour away and it was already 8 p.m. I asked if Martina actually wanted the brown one back. They said that wasn't the point. After some pushing back, Jose admitted someone was willing to pay him $225 for the brown one and give Martina the pink one that she wants. I said I wouldn't force Sophia to swap back. From my perspective, both kids were happy with the trade and got the Labubu they wanted. Sophia didn't pressure or manipulate Martina into switching. If she had, I would have stepped in immediately and told her, you get what you get and you don't get upset. When I asked her, Sophia admitted that she knew the brown one was rare, but when I asked how much they sell for, she said they're blind boxes, so you can't buy the brown, they just make less of them. She said she didn't know it was worth money. She's not a good liar and she appeared to be telling the truth. Martina originally didn't want the brown one and basically got upset when she saw Sophia got pink. It feels like Maria and Jose only want the brown one back because they can sell it and pocket money from it. Now they're upset with me and saying I'm being unfair and taking advantage of a 6-year-old, and Jose even called Sophia a manipulative B word, which I think is a reach when Sophia didn't know it was worth a lot of money. She just knew that they were rare to pull, that she already had the pink, and that Martina was crying for the pink one. Sarah has said this is stupid parent drama and she's staying out of it and said we can sort it out ourselves. So, am I the jerk for refusing to make my daughter give the brown Labubu back? Edit. Jose called Sophia a manipulative B word to me on the phone discussing it, not to Sophia's face. He would be a dead man walking if he said it to her. It was about an hour before making the post and I hung up on him for it and has not yet been addressed. My wife and I will obviously be addressing it. I was still processing it when I made the post, but the manipulative part made me wonder if I was being unreasonable, hence making the post. Edit 2, since I can't reply now, Sophia's trying to collect the whole set of these Labubus, and her motivation for wanting the brown was to help complete the set. She has no intention of selling or trading it. After talking about it with her again, she took rare to mean it was simply harder to find in the boxes. She doesn't engage in buying or reselling. As far as I know, Jose and Maria are not in desperate need of the cash. They're not rich, sure, but to the best of my knowledge, not in the kind of financial situation where the only way to keep the lights on for the next quarter is to sell their child's gift. We're in Australia, so this is in Australian dollars. Can I just say, I think it's crazy that Jose is trying to paint a 12-year-old girl as a manipulative B word that's trying to somehow steal from their daughter so they can flip a brown Labubu on some resale market. Yeah, crack the case, Jose. Sophia's on Facebook Marketplace hustling Labubus that she got at Christmas time. I will say though, if I was the parent, I would have some small internal twinge of guilt. over knowing that Martina just didn't know exactly what they had. But they're happy, and when they say, oh, you're scamming a 6-year-old girl out of this, not really, when their solution is giving it back so they can sell it, and Martina still doesn't have the thing that they're talking about. Technical Paul 513 left a comment saying, he called your 12-year-old a manipulative jerk? No, you're not the jerk. Also, stop talking to that man, whoever he is. What the freak? What kind of grown man says that about a child? About a Labubu, no less. Our next story is, am I the jerk? Don't want service dog over for Christmas. I, 35-year-old male, host Christmas for my family. We host a large Christmas Eve party every year. I host because I've got a good house for it, and I'm pretty central to the extended family. Last year, my cousin had a service dog in training that she brought to Christmas Eve. I was told this dog was maybe a year old. I don't have much experience with them and I've never owned any. It peed inside my house and other smaller annoyances occurred. One involved my kid. I did hear some complaints from another family member too. A few weeks ago, I asked around to see if my cousin was coming because I was going to nip this in the bud this year and ban it. I was told by family members that she wasn't coming, so I thought there was nothing to have to deal with. I got notice on Sunday that she, in fact, would be in attendance. So I called her yesterday to tell her that she could come and that her dog is not invited. This has caused drama. I've been told that her parents, my aunt and uncle, and her siblings are threatening not to come. It's been a nightmare. I've offered to let the dog stay outside, but it can't come inside. But that's an unreasonable ask, I'm being told. Am I the jerk here? I'll be honest, I collected the story myself, so I kind of know some extra detail here, so I'm not totally unbiased in this comment. The bottom line is, it depends on what service animal this is, and a lot of it will become very clear in just a second. Abazaba left a comment saying, we really need you to answer the question. Is it a task-trained service dog or an emotional support animal? Because everything depends on the answer. A year later, a fully trained service dog won't cause the same issues, and you would be the jerk. But if she's calling an emotional service animal a service dog and it's still poorly trained like last year, then she's the jerk. Tell us more, OP. OP replied, commenting, believe it's a diabetic alert dog. I know she's had diabetes all her life. I'm doing the math there, assuming. The dog destroyed a football of my kids. Abazaba then replied saying, oh heck no, a diabetic alert dog? Hard OP is the jerk. Jesus OP, you don't have a leg to stand on, as your cousin also may not if the diabetes takes their foot. Edit 2 because I didn't expect this to be the top comment. OP, you volunteered to host with the full intention to nip it in the bud and ban this dog. If you had stated that you would like to skip hosting because of the dog, and then had been talked into hosting it after being assured that the dog owner wasn't coming, and then found out that the dog owner was coming after the plans were locked, then we might have some more empathy for you. But that is not the situation you described. People saying you have every right to deny the dog are technically correct, as you are legally allowed to do this, but this forum isn't, do I have the right? It's, am I the jerk? And the way you're treating your family makes you the jerk. Our next story is, am I the jerk for giving the babysitter a bonus when my kid needs football shoes? I'm a single mom to 3 kids, Jonah, 9, Elise, 5, and Mila, 3. I have a babysitter, Cameron, that picks the kids up every day and stays with them until I get home. She typically works 12 to 15 hours a week. Cameron has a severe tree nut allergy. We have an EpiPen in the house for her, and the only tree nut in the house is Nutella, which is strictly a weekend snack. The kids went to their dad's house last weekend, and I guess he packed some sort of trail mix in their lunch. When Cameron was emptying out their lunch boxes, she had a reaction. She called me, but I can't have my phone on me at work. Then she called my neighbor and my boyfriend, our emergency contacts. Nobody picked up, so she packed a bag with tablets, toys, and snacks, loaded the kids into her car, and took them to the ER with her. Cameron is totally fine. The kids were a little freaked out by the hospital, but when I eventually got there, they were all fed and entertained. I had her take the week off, paid and sent her a $250 bonus for having to deal with that. I also told her to let me know how much the replacement EpiPen and the hospital bill ends up costing and that I'll cover it. The problem is that I'd set aside that $250 for Jonah. He started flag football, and that was supposed to cover his uniform, shoes, and any other expenses. I texted my ex and asked him to get Jonah his flag football uniform and shoes, but he refused since that's what he pays child support for. I told him that I don't have the money for it anymore since Cameron had a medical emergency while on the clock due to him packing trail mix in their lunches after I told him he was allergic. He's upset that I'm sending his child support money to the babysitter when I knew my son needed shoes and is threatening to take me to court for misusing child support. I told him he's welcome to do that, but in the meantime, either he gets the shoes and uniform or Jonah doesn't play flag football. Now he's out calling me a bad mother to anyone that will listen because I want him to pay for his kids' activities for once. I think it's a very kind thing that OP's doing here. I would love to know in the comments if people think what OP did was a necessary thing to do, if they should have tried to figure something else out other than using that $250 that was set aside for Jonah's gear. I personally can't fault OP for trying to make the situation right. I mean, I myself with my insurance have a $500 ER fee just for checking in before the rest of the actual co-insurance for anything else that they do. Just Low left a comment saying, "Not the jerk. A good babysitter is worth their weight in gold, and since none of what happened was her fault, it's only right that you pay for her medical expenses. The only jerk in this story is your ex." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not paying for my daughter's wedding because she isn't following the rules even though I paid for my older kids? My wife and I have always told all of our kids that we will be willing to pay for their wedding if they follow a few rules. All family has to be invited, exceptions if something major happened. The wedding cannot be a destination wedding if all of your guests need to get on a plane basically and leave the country. Immediate family gets a +1 even if they're not dating someone. Overall, the rules are not hard to follow, in my opinion. My daughter, 31-year-old female, is marrying Cindy, 34-year-old female, and they've picked out a venue and are working on the guest list. They both know the rules if they want me to pay. My daughter informed me yesterday that the wedding will be child-free. I told her that goes against one of the rules of me paying, that all family must be invited. Yes, that includes the kids. We had a sit-down conversation where she tried to convince me to still pay even if it was child-free. She wants it to be child-free because she wants it to be an elegant event. And her Cindy doesn't like kids that much because she experienced parentification as a kid. I told her I would think about it, and my decision was no. I informed both of them, and in short, they're quite mad. I made it clear that they can do that type of wedding if they want, but I just won't be paying for it. My daughter is ticked and saying that it's unfair because her siblings did get a free wedding. I pointed out that they followed my rules on this. Everyone is ticked, basically. I'm just going to answer questions down here. Another question, why doesn't Cindy's parents pay for it? They're the type of parent that don't give money for weddings. Yes, they will be there. Big on, if you're old enough to get married, then you should pay for it kind of people. Since I'm seeing this a lot, Cindy has been to many events with kids. She even babysat before. She personally doesn't want children but has been fine around kids before. Did other kids have issues with the rules? Only my middle son/daughter-in-law. They wanted an Italy wedding but decided against it after I informed them I wouldn't pay. They can still do a child-free wedding if they want, just means they won't get $50,000 to $100,000 from me. They will need to pay for it themselves. I think it's possible to maybe disagree with OP, but also admit that OP is anything if not consistent, and they weren't a liar, they were clear about the rules. I think it's hard to say that OP is the jerk at all, even if you feel like maybe they should wiggle a little bit on it. Badman PJ Pants left a comment saying, I don't think you are the jerk in this situation, but I do think you sound like an jerk. Our next story is, would I be the jerk if I deny my newfound half-sister on my father's side access to my mother? This is a bit complicated, please bear with me. Recently, a girl, 23-year-old female, reached out to me, 25-year-old female, via Facebook, explaining that she's my half-sister conceived by my father and another woman. She explained that her mother recently came clean to her regarding her father, That she, 23-year-old female, was the result of a one-night stand with a guy she met during a work trip. Before, she was told that she was the bio kid of her stepfather. She didn't find our father online as he doesn't have social media, but found me thanks to our very uncommon surname. How her mother knows our surname but doesn't have any other contact information, I don't know. 23-year-old female told me her mother was very cagey about everything. After a bunch of messaging, we set up a video call to talk, and 23 explained she was very excited to connect with her real family and yada yada, but not just with my father's side, also with my mother's? As you can guess from our ages, my father cheated on my mom with the 23-year-old female's mother. No surprise, as he had had a ton of affairs during the marriage, which is why they divorced almost 2 decades ago. I'm also not surprised that 23 exists, as my father told me himself years ago when I was grilling him about the cheating, that he most likely has a bunch of affair kids out there because that's just how men are. I was open with her and told her that I'm no contact with my paternal family because not only did they condone the cheating and blamed my mom for it, they're just toxic in general. There is a lot to say about my paternal family, but to keep it concise, I told her I could give her their contact info, but that she should keep her expectations low because they're all pretty terrible people and she won't be seen as a long-lost daughter coming home. But me saying that led her to asking about my maternal family, to which I told her that they were amazing people and that my mother is great. She then got excited and said she can't wait to connect with my mom, and I'm stumped as to why I would let her do that. She's not related to my mom, and my parents divorced long ago. My mom has also since remarried. Also, the timing of 23's conception coincides with the time when my mom miscarried my younger brother, something that obviously hurt her a lot. Knowing that on top of the pain my father was cheating on her during that time is another can of worms. I told 23 I would ask my mom if she's okay with connecting with her, but I don't think I should even bring this up to her. All of this just seems so weird to me, and I don't even know if 23 is a good person or if she has some ulterior motive for wanting to know my mom. 23 couldn't even give me a good reason as to why she would want that. Just that my mom is my family and thus also hers, 23-year-old females. I'm leaning towards not mentioning this to my mom and giving 23 my dad's info, but my best friend said I'm a jerk for keeping my mom to myself and that I shouldn't make this decision for my mom. Would I be the jerk if I don't mention anything to my mom? Really, I have 2 trains of thought here. The first is, if I'm in OP's shoes, I don't want to put that burden on my mom, and there's no point, they're not related. I just feel like there's no chance OP's mom would want anything to do with their decades-old ex's one-night stand affair child, let alone that extra weight of the timing of it all. The only other thing though, and this is the second train of thought, is if somehow that 23-year-old girl manages to get a hold of OP's mom in some way, maybe there could be some hurt there if they found out that OP withheld that info. But doesn't withholding it regardless seem like a chance worth taking? Hypnopsych commented, "Not the jerk. I may be overly suspicious, but I would be wanting DNA evidence of relationship after her so smoothly moving on from wanting to be connected with your father's family onto your mother's. Grifters and scams abound these days, and it pays to be cautious." Our next story is, am I the jerk for excluding my brother from a fun event because his wife talks too much? I, 29-year-old female, I'm having a game night and would love for my brother, 33-year-old male, to attend, but do not enjoy the company of his wife, 30-year-old female. Not because she's a bad person, but because she has no ability to control herself in a social setting. She not only dominates any conversation and is very loud, only appears to have one volume, she also rarely asks anyone questions about themselves without immediately jumping on what they're saying to make it about her. Unfortunately, due to her behavior, I have to exclude my brother from this event, and likely future events, because there's no way that he would show up without her, which is fair. My brother's been married for a year, this is not new behavior from her, and I've discussed it with him. He says he knows that it's annoying or disruptive and that he's talked to her about it, but nothing seems to change. This happens at dinners, family gatherings, etc. I have to specifically seek him out alone if I want to talk to him at all. If they're together, she cannot stop talking for the both of them and he can't get a word in. I understand it's probably an anxiety thing and she claims to be going to a therapist for the past couple years, but I just don't know if there's anything more I can do without being rude. Here's where I may be the jerk. I'm inviting some cousins and some of my close friends to game night that live much further than my brother and his wife. They live in my city. I've not told them, but I'm concerned about them finding out and being hurt. But I'd like the chance for everyone to participate in a conversation. Last time she was at game night, she delayed people's turns because she wouldn't stop talking and was practically yelling over people trying to participate in the game about unrelated things. Am I the jerk for excluding them because of her behavior? I would actually love to know in the comments what people think the right thing to do in a situation like this is. Because I'll be honest, I've had situations like this where there's a friend group or something, and there's that one friend who just, the vibe isn't right, or they're like an unapologetically horrendous self-yapper. And I don't want to be rude or choose to exclude somebody, but also I don't want to be that person that tries to like eject an individual from the friend group. I wouldn't want to rock the boat like that, especially when it's your own brother's wife. It feels like an unwinnable position. What do you do? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.